Hello, ladies. Oh my goodness, today's a juicy topic. We're talking about our inner critic today. And I'm going to get a little vulnerable. I'm going to share a little bit with you because you know what? We're just a bunch of real women here trying to do real things. And the reality is, we all have an inner critic. So, why we wouldn't talk about it, I have no idea. So, let's stop pretending and let's talk about the infamous inner critic. So, some days she's kind of off in a distance, just kind of whispering her little flippant or self-defeating comments. And then other days she's like a megaphone and she's blasting her opinions directly into our ears and, truth be told, into our hearts. Really, at her core, our inner critic is a statement of fear. And these fears can be deeply rooted and can really carry some seriously charged emotions. And the inner critic seems to find her greatest joy in popping up just when we're ready to take a chance on ourselves, to try something new, something big, something brave, something we've always wanted to do. We may even feel it so deeply at our core, and yet she may jump in with all of her watch out for this, watch out for that, why you shouldn't do this, why you shouldn't do that. Tell me this. Is this true for you, where you've had a moment where you've been just overcome with inspiration? Inspiration to take on something new, take a leap, and you might even feel this spark running through you when you think about it. And I don't know about you, but for me, these things usually pop up like on a Saturday morning when my mind feels relaxed and peaceful, and there's just a sense of possibilities on a Saturday morning, at least for me. And sometimes it's because I've read a book that's inspirational or listened to a podcast, someone that really, hits home for me and makes me feel like things are possible. Maybe it's after I've had a meeting with my coach and I had this major aha moment and it feels like go time, like the possibilities there and I can do it. And I'm all fired up, and then there can be this quiet moment that comes and my inner critic just starts reminding me of all the reasons why I can't, why I shouldn't. And she can fill our brain with thoughts that are not serving us if we really want to reach into a new future. And as I talk about with women, a future dream career. So here's some examples, career related, that I want to share with you, and just try them on for size. Do any of these resonate for you? Does she say all the reasons why you don't deserve fill in the blank? Does she like to share with you failures of the past? Is she reminding you of labels that others have given you that maybe you've even adopted as your own? Does she give you all the excuses for why not? Why not take this step towards a new career? Because of this, and this. So-and-so won't support me. Financially, I can't do it. I'm not good enough to do that. All the excuses. Does she share with you warnings? Watch out for this. Maybe this has happened in the past. What if it happens again? Remember that one time? What does your inner critic like to tell you? How is she labeling you and keeping you in a box? In a box that your soul wants to break out of. So I don't know about you, but my life's not been perfect. I've not been perfect. And honestly, no one around me's been perfect. So for the inner critic to feel so compelled to shine the spotlight on all the things that are not perfect about me or my life, pretty absurd, honestly, when you really think about it. And I wonder how much of this, if this is resonating for you. Is this something that you're feeling really strongly in your life right now? Is that inner critic voice like heavy, heavy in your ear? Or maybe you're in a stage where it's not overly strong, but you know it could flip on a moment's notice, where she could rear her opinionated little self when you least expect it. Would you feel any better knowing that you are in amazing company with having an inner critic? And it might seem obvious, but if you're like me, I will sometimes look around at other people and think they really have their act together. You know, it might be friends or people that I follow on social media, and I think, wow, they have their shit together. But if you dig under, it's not true. We all have stuff happening. We all have inner critic messages holding us back, trying to hold us back. We're human. There are inner battles that are happening inside of us, and at some points in our life, they're stronger than others. Sometimes it can switch during the day. You can be having a great day where you're feeling like, I got this. And then suddenly, that voice pops in. The real mastery, ladies, is when you can put steps in place to take control of the inner critic. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And by the time we're done, you will have strategies that you can tap into to navigate these voices when they come up and when they're trying to get in your way of something you really want in your life or in your career. Okay, ladies, grab a pen and paper, because here's where we're going to start digging in. And remember, you can always watch the replay. Okay, the first thing I want you to do is list out your most frequent inner critic messages. Okay, this is basic, but if we don't fully acknowledge what they are for us, we can't deal with them. And I believe that sometimes they are under the surface and we haven't labeled them as an inner critic message. We may say, here's a reason why I cannot do XYZ. But is it really true? Or is it just an excuse? So I want you to really dig in and think of what, and if you're not sure, write it down anyway, because you can always go back and circle or cross it out. Okay. And I want you to write down, at least 5, because we're going to kind of look at patterns as well. And remember, they could be fears. They could be reasons why not to do something. They could be perceived failures of the past, difficult moments of the past that make you believe something now that may not be entirely true, judgments that others have made about you or that you've made of yourself. So write down at least 5. And I'm going to share some examples just to help you kind of stimulate your own thoughts. Okay. And these are all career related. So one could be, I can never go back to school at my age. I'm too old. My last boss said I was not leadership material. I'm sure she's right. Every time I try something new, I fail in some way. I'm not smart enough to become a blank. You should be grateful for the steady career you have now. Stop dreaming for more. You don't have the mental fortitude to do fill in the blank. You don't have the energy to do fill in the blank. Since when have you been good at speaking in front of people? Remember the last time you applied for a job? You did terrible in the interview. Why would someone like you want to start up a new business when you can retire in 8 years? You've been out of the workforce for 18 years. You're too far behind to catch up now. So if any of these are resonating for you, write them down, or stimulating new ones that are yours, please write them down. And I'm not sure if this is you, but I have noticed a pattern for me where I'll have this spark of inspiration for more in my career. Something that I can feel so drawn to that I actually feel a flutter in my heart. And I'll start dreaming of it and getting excited about the possibilities. And then bam, these voices start creeping in. And before I know it, those voices sound so logical and practical that they can override that what is in me that is so real and so desired by my heart. And I'll share a story with you. So I made my first major career change when I was 40. And this yearning came to me, and it was right after my daughter's cancer treatment. She had been 10 years old, and I'd been an auditor at Mayo Clinic. I was an audit manager. And after her treatment, I went back and I'm like, I want to make a difference, and this is not it. And I want to impact our patients in a really meaningful way. So I read books, and I dreamed of what could happen in my future. But honestly, I was not making any traction because my inner critic and many, many inner critic messages kept coming in and overriding those dreams. And then for me, that's when I reached out to my first coach. His name was Jim. And Jim supported me as I visioned, as I planned, as I faced my fears, as I faced the inner critic, and reminded me I didn't have to have all the steps and answers laid out, that I could go step by step. And my very first step, I did it with fear. Woo, fear and trepidation. I was 40 years old, and let me tell you, the voices were telling me I was crazy. I went back to school to get my master's degree. And for me, that led me to my first meaningful and soul-aligned career up to that point for me as the director of patient experience at Mayo Clinic. It was exactly where I was meant to be after my daughter's diagnosis. So auditor turned patient experience. It would have seemed impossible, and it did seem impossible to me. But I took one step, and that was my master's degree, which led me into conversations with the people in patient experience and research in that space, so that when a position opened up, literally a year after my degree, they called me. So what may seem impossible, and all the logical messages of the inner critic may seem like what we should attach to, it's not always the case. So ladies, what patterns are you seeing for yourself as you start writing down your inner critic messages? And if you can, try and trace them back to specific moments in your life. Events, people, environments you lived in, the culture of the time, the culture of your community. All these things can impact us. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't challenge them. It doesn't mean they're still true and right. All right, that was step 1. Step 2, we're going to identify the good intentions of our inner critic. Okay, this is the surprising step. This is what you may not have expected. You may have thought, we're going to go into the ring with the inner critic, knock her down. Well, there might be some short-term benefits for that. However, if we can look at our inner critic without judgment and maybe even some level of forgiveness, we are going to be more equipped to have ongoing future conversations with her, because she's going to keep coming up for the rest of our lives. And we want to be able to have these conversations. And I want you to remember, her expressions are based on fear. And from her perspective, this is all to protect you from the what ifs and the what could go wrongs. Okay, ladies, so as your first step to identifying the good intentions of your inner critic, I want you to list out the possible intentions of your inner critic for each of the items you noted above. So you listed out your top 5 inner critic messages, and for each one, I want you to write down what are some possible good intentions the inner critic has to protect you. Her intentions are likely good, but they're just not always good for you. But she does want to keep you safe and protected from any and all dangers. So, ladies, we are doing this so we can find meaningful ways to overcome these messages. If we know her intentions, we are better positioned to state our position with the inner critic message, the inner critic. And we are going to be stating our position. That's coming up. We're going to be having a conversation. Before we do that, we're going to name her. And we're going to name your inner critic. You get to come up with your own name. And we're doing this for two reasons. One is I want you to be able to separate yourself from the inner critic. Sometimes she has a mind of her own anyway. So let's come up with a name for her. Second, as you move forward in the exercise and your practice to manage your inner critic, it will be easier to converse with her if you have a name to use. So what will it be? I'm going to share mine. So mine is Frances. Frances is named because of the phrase, lighten up Frances. Because mine really likes to overthink things, well-intentioned as she may be. She wants the list of the pros and the cons and the rights and the wrongs. And she wants to analyze. So I call her Frances. And so next, once you come up with the name, I want you to have a conversation with her. This might feel odd. So at first, maybe you just want to do it in your head. If you feel comfortable, say it out loud. And it might feel strange, but I want you to know this can be so powerful and healing. And if you're even brave enough, go stand and look in the mirror even. Okay, ladies? So I want you to think of something that you're really wanting to do. Bonus points if it's career related. Something you really want to do, but you've been holding yourself back. If it's not career related, that is fine. It's still a powerful exercise. Just something that's been on your mind and heart that you've been holding back on. And then I want you to peruse through that list of inner critic messages you made from earlier. And I want you to identify one or maybe two of the most likely messages that are holding you back. And if you don't see it on your list, you might have another inner critic message to write down. Okay? All right. So now here is where we're going to show some goodwill towards this inner critic. I want you to send a message of acknowledgement to your named inner critic and what you see as her intended purpose for bringing her concerns forward. And let her know that you have or will weigh her concerns with many other factors, such as your wisdom, your experience, your abilities, as you make your decision of how you want to proceed. And if you choose, you can let her know that fear will not be the dominant force in your life. Then ask her to let go and to trust you to make the decisions. The goal is for you to have a relationship with your inner critic so you can make decisions in your life that are more well-rounded and are not just driven by fear. So I'm going to share a pivotal moment in my career. Second time I made a career change at 54, so very recent. And I had to have a serious heart-to-heart with my inner critic because she was there. So as I was considering leaving my stable 9-to-5 corporate position to pursue full-time coaching, my inner critic was all up in my business. And so some of her common messages were, this does not make financial sense to start a new business with startup costs at this point in your life. You have a good job and it pays the bills. Why can't you just be happy where you are for the next 8 years and then retire? As I mentioned, she's real good at bringing forward all the logical points to kind of tap down this yearning that I had to become a coach for midlife women. And if I would have had this particular exercise, here's what I would have said to Frances. Oh, Frances, I hear you. You are worried about me not being able to financially support my family, especially since I work in a career that I know well and I do well. And you wonder about my ability to succeed in something new that I've never done before, especially at the age of 54. You recognize the practicality of retirement options in 8 years. And while your concerns are important for me to consider, and I have considered them, I also know that I do have many years of lived experience and wisdom to bring into this business. I also know that everything within me needs to do this so that when I do reach the end of my life, I can feel that I served in a way that I was called to. You can let go now and trust that I have weighed several factors in my decision. Even though I'm taking a bit of a risk, I am confident in my next steps. So ladies, I'm going to turn this next step over to you. Feel free to write it out, speak it in your mind, speak it out loud, but have a conversation with your inner critic. Let her know that there's more to your decision making than just what she's bringing forward, so that you can feel confident in making a decision that aligns with all of you. Ladies, I've enjoyed my time with you today, and if this is something that resonates with you and you want to talk more about it, please reach out. I love this topic, and I would even love to take you through the exercise together. So reach out if you'd like to, and let's just recap. So we listed out our most frequent inner critic messages. We identified the good intentions of your inner critic for each of those. We gave her a name, and then we had a conversation with her so you can move forward. Wishing you a wonderful day, and a special reminder that it's never too late. Goodbye.